I just watched The Blackening. Is it any good? How many butter pumps will it get? Let's find out.
My baby likes butter.
Hello, my beautiful butter babies. So let's get into The Blackening. It's actually based off a very funny viral video created about 5 years ago by the improv sketch comedy troupe Three-Peat and produced by Comedy Central. I'll put the link in the description box down below. As I said, the video went viral. It racked up over 500,000 views on YouTube alone. The premise of the video is this. A group of black friends are being chased through the woods by a killer who happens to be white. He traps them in a house in the woods, but can't decide which one to kill first. A very common trope in horror movies is if there's a black person in it, that person usually dies first. So the killer leaves it up to the group to decide which amongst them is the blackest, and that's the one he'll kill and spare everyone else. The movie pretty much follows that exact same premise. A group of young, beautiful black professionals who first met in college are getting together for a reunion weekend over the Juneteenth holiday. And of course, because it's a horror movie, they're meeting in a cabin in the woods. Now granted, it's a really nice cabin, but still, it's out in the woods. Once there, they begin to be terrorized by a killer with a crossbow, and the movie takes off from there. Now, y'all already know, I am not a scream queen. I hate horror movies. I've said many times before on this very channel, if it's scarier than your run-of-the-mill average Scooby-Doo mystery, girl, I'm out. But I try to do my best to support black people doing positive black things. So, whenever there's a black creator that creates something good and positive and uplifting for the culture, I'm going to do what I can to support it, which means me breaking my no horror rule when it comes to film. Black people are doing it, it looks positive, so I gotta put on my big girl panties and watch this movie. Y'all, this movie is so good. I mean, so good. I cannot speak highly enough about this movie. There are so many things to appreciate about this movie. The first is, it's smart. Parodies are sometimes written by people and greenlighted by studios who wouldn't know satire if its dick was in its mouth. And then we end up with movies that follow the not another fill-in-the-blank movie formula that was popular in the early aughts. But the people who wrote this movie know satire. They know parody. They know comedy, and they get it right. It's smart and funny, which is a combination that is so hard to get right. Secondly, along with knowing satire, parody, and comedy, the writing team knows how to write for a particular audience. Black people specifically. While I am positive anyone can go see this movie and have a good time, this movie is written specifically for black people. The Blackening is that rare horror movie that's written from a black person's perspective, like movies like Get Out or Us or Nope. Although I hear Nope is more of science fiction-y rather than horror, but still, it's written from a black person's perspective. I'm sure as they were sitting down to write this movie, they, being co-writers Tracy Oliver and Dwayne Perkins, they thought, what would we as black people do if we were put in the exact same circumstances as non-black and brown people? So this entire movie becomes that more relatable as we as black people see ourselves reflected back to us in a very unique and specific way. Again, and I cannot stress this enough, The Blackening is so good anyone can enjoy it, but if you're a black person, this movie hits different. It hits on a deeper and more relatable level because most of what they're doing during the course of this movie is exactly what most black audiences watching them would have done in the same circumstance. Thirdly, it's so nice to see black people on screen written in an authentic way. And what I mean by that is authentically to how a lot of us live or aspire to live today. We're not all slaves, civil rights activists marching alongside MLK in the 60s, or gangbangers. We're not all living in poverty. We're not all living in the hood. We're not all drug dealers or felons. Certainly our histories are as varied as we are, and we all got to start from somewhere. And to be fair, that's addressed in this movie. But regardless of where we came from, there are still some of us living that different world, living single, girlfriends, best man, grand crew kind of life. While black people have certain struggles that are specific to us, again, acknowledged with care in this movie, reflections in art about us don't always have to center around that trauma and struggle. I'm just tired of seeing what has become, in a lot of ways, the only black experiences movie studios will greenlight reflected back at me in the theater. We as black folk have so many other experiences that should be reflected in the art we consume. To be fair though, this is a horror movie about black folk, so racism is at the center of their particular struggle in this movie. But the commentary is, no matter how well off you get, as a black person you'll never escape racism. If Oprah can still experience racism, there's just no escape. But that doesn't mean you can't live or aspire to live that Oprah life. Just saying. Alongside black folk being written authentically on screen, we have black queer representation in this movie as well. A gay man is among the group of friends. He's completely out of the closet, thank God. He's not secretly pining over one of his straight friends. Again, thank God. And most importantly, his friends don't have a problem with him being gay and love him unconditionally. Thank God. I appreciated watching this queer character and his interactions with the others for two reasons. Number one, his gayness is treated as fact, just as much as his and everyone else's blackness is treated as fact. It just is. Him being gay is brought up once, maybe twice, but that's it. I love that his gayness didn't require a story arc. It just was. Moreover, his gayness was never treated as a joke. Too many movies, regardless of the genre, will throw in a gay character as a quick way to put in a few quick throwaway gay jokes at the gay character's expense. Dwayne was never treated that way. His character was treated with as much respect as the rest of the characters in the film, which leads me to reason number two. His friends had absolutely zero problem with his queerness. The straight men in the group didn't act uncomfortable around him, and the straight women didn't treat him as an accessory. He was as important and as vital to the group as anyone else. As a black queer person myself, it was so nice to see that on screen, because it's been a lot of queer black people's experiences, including mine, where it be your own people that turn against you the quickest. It be your own people that have the deepest problem with you. It be your own people who will swear up and down they love and accept you, but at the same time will pray for you to get rid of that demon gay on the low. or those that will swear up and down they love and accept you, only to have something slick and shady at the ready to say every time your black ass comes around. It was so nice to see that not be the case in this movie. Dwayne was a character who happened to be gay, and his gayness was a non-factor in how he was treated by the rest of the group. It was absolutely wonderful to see. I've spent a lot of time in this video talking about the plot and characterization of the movie instead of the horror aspect and kill count. There's a reason for that. First off, this movie's point wasn't about the kill count or how creative the killer got with eviscerating his victims. This movie was about this group of friends and their relationship with one another, racism, comedy, and pulling up the rear is horror and kill count. Knowing that the actual kills that happened weren't that bad to witness. They were mostly done by crossbow, and because gore porn, which is a real thing, isn't the point of this movie, we don't linger too long on watching people bleed out in the grisliest ways possible. The build-up to the kills are the scariest parts of the movie. The kills themselves are over pretty quickly comparatively. Now that may be a disappointment to some of you horror aficionados out there, but for a person like me, who admittedly still had to watch the kills between my fingers like this, it was a blessing, honey. As with most horror movies nowadays, this one also had a twist. And if there was one disappointment I had with the movie, it's that I saw this twist coming. I saw this twist coming from a billion miles away. Honey, it was such an obvious twist that I didn't understand why it was really kept in the movie at all. Nor do I understand why the characters in the film didn't see it coming from a billion miles away either. But I will say, knowing that twist and expecting it to reveal itself in the third act, which it did not take me out of the film, nor did it hinder my enjoyment of the film. I've been pretty spoiler-free for this review, and I'm going to try and keep it that way for the remainder of this video, but I am curious, for those of you who have seen the movie, if you saw that twist from the very beginning, or if it took you by surprise. Comment down below. I really want to hear you guys' experience. So who are the standout players in the movie? Honestly, all of them. Grace Byers is well on her way to becoming a superstar. If Hollywood will let her, that is. You know how they like to do black actresses. X Mayo, who I hadn't heard of before this movie, but now am completely obsessed with, is absolutely delicious in this movie. Antoinette Robertson, who I hadn't seen since Dear White People wrapped up on Netflix, has one of the best moments in the entire film, which is slightly alluded to in the trailer, but no spoilers here. Sinqua Walls is so sexy. Oh, I just want to slap him and kiss him and then slap him again. Ooh. He's great in the movie, by the way, but he's still as sexy as he wanted to be. Melvin Gregg is one of those characters that had that hood past that we've been talking about, that he's trying really hard to rise above, and you're actually rooting for him to get there this entire film. And as I mentioned before, Dwayne Perkins embodied his character's queerness with dignity and strength, and didn't go investigate that strange noise. Instead, he closed and locked the door to the outside, which is exactly what I would have done. Mild spoiler. Dietrich Bader, who has been angling for an invite to the cookout for years now, is brilliant as the lone white police officer you don't know if you can trust. based on his performance in this movie. As far as I'm concerned, Dietrich, you can grab a cookout plate to go, friend. If there's anyone in the film who got an A- instead of an A+ in this entire cast, I'd say it was Jermaine Fowler. He just didn't embody his character as well as the others. But even though he gets an A- instead of an A+, he's still getting an A, honey. So there you go. Everybody was just great in this movie. So how many butter pumps is The Blackening going to get? 5. That's right, 5 butter pumps. Even though the twist is obvious, and that would have generally kicked the rating down 1 butter pump for me, the obvious twist never took me out of the movie, and it didn't detract from my enjoyment of the film. So 5 butter pumps. Go see this movie, support black art. So now I turn it over to you, my beautiful butter babies. Have you seen The Blackening? If so, what did you think? How many butter pumps would you give it? Sound off down below. I want to hear all about it. Thank you so much, my beautiful butter babies, for commenting, watching, and subscribing. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.